Hello student, this video lecture is prepared for particular technology subject and I will discuss the unit number 5, that is known as the sedimentation. So in previous lecture we have already discussed what is the mean by sedimentation, what is the working principle, then types of settling, then concept of terminal velocity, or we can say terminal falling velocity. In today's lecture, we will discuss the difference between sedimentation and filtration, difference between sedimentation and centrifugation, and difference between sedimentation and classification. So let us start the lecture. So first we discuss the difference between sedimentation and filtration. So filtration, this chapter we have already studied in unit number 4. So in sedimentation, it is defined as the removal of solid particles from suspension by settling under gravity. So by means of a gravity, we are removing the solid material. In case of filtration, we are removing the solids, but by using the porous medium. So porous medium, that means filter medium, we can use to separate the solid particles and liquid. So this is the first point. Then in case of sedimentation, gravitational force is the responsible force used for the separation, and in case of filtration we are using the pressure difference between the filter media which is responsible for separation. In case of sedimentation, the filter medium, maybe filter cloth, is not required, and in case of filtration the filter medium is required. The concentration of solid is very low in suspension to be handled. So in sedimentation, we are having very low quantity of solid as compared to the filtration. But in case of filtration, the concentration of solid is large, which can be handled as a cake filtration. In sedimentation, clear liquid is the product of the operation. That means we are interested in a clear liquid, not in solid material. So in case of filtration, the wet cake is our product, not liquid. So this is the another difference. Next difference is basins. Sedimentation basin and thickeners are these equipments which is used for the sedimentation. In case of filtration, we are using filter press, rotary drum filter, vacuum filters. So these equipments are used in a filtration. And in case of sedimentation, sludge is discarded from the sedimentation. Sludge is nothing but the solid which is obtained at the bottom of the sedimentation tank is called a sludge. So this sludge is discarded, means throw out from that sedimentation equipment. And in case of filtration, filtrate, that means the liquid which is obtained after the filtration is called a filtrate. So this liquid is discarded or thrown out from the filtration. So these are the 7 points which differentiate between the sedimentation and filtration. Next difference is the sedimentation and centrifugation or fugation. So centrifugation is nothing but it is one of the type of the filtration. So what is the difference between these two? In the sedimentation, the separation of solid from a suspension in a liquid by gravity settling. So this point we have already discussed that. And in case of centrifugation, we have to remove the solid from the liquid by application of centrifugal force. Okay. So here we are using gravitational force, here we are using centrifugal force. Then in case of sedimentation, gravitational force is responsible for the separation, and here also the centrifugal force is responsible for separation. Okay, so this is actually definition, and this is the actually what forces we are using in sedimentation and centrifugation is explained in the point number 2. Then third difference is that the force of gravity is comparatively very small and this process is slow. obviously the gravitational force is having very small, means it is having weightage very small, and the separation is slowly. And in case of centrifugal force, which is obviously higher, because we are rotating that centrifuge machine. So by rotating that, the centrifugal force is created, is having higher magnitude. And same thing, sedimentation basins and thickeners are used for the sedimentation. And in centrifugation, various types of a centrifuge are used for the centrifuge. Means we can use a suspended type, horizontal, vertical type centrifuge. Okay, so in this way we can differentiate sedimentation and centrifugation or fugation. The next difference is that the difference between sedimentation and classification. So here again we have to define the definition of sedimentation: separation of solid from a suspension in liquid by gravity settling is called as sedimentation. And in case of classification, so this chapter we have already studied in a third chapter, that is classification. So here we are separating the solid material according to their fractions, that means according to their size or density, which is based on the terminal falling velocity. So this is the first difference. Then in case of sedimentation, we are obtaining two products, that means one is the clear liquid and another is the sludge, or which is called a slurry. And in case of classification also, we are obtain two types of a product. One is coarse material, that means material which is having higher size, and another is fine material, that means material which is having a very small size. Okay. And in case of sedimentation, we do not added any liquid medium in that solid material, means suspension is already there in sedimentation. And in case of classification, we have to add the liquid medium to effect the separation. That means there are some coarse material, fine material, other size of a material. So in that material you have to add the liquid, and after adding the liquid we get the separation. So that is called a classification. So this is not happening in the sedimentation. So these are the three important differentiation between these three processes, that means filtration, sedimentation, another one is the sedimentation, centrifugation, and third one is the sedimentation and classification. Then we will discuss the next point, that is called a laboratory batch sedimentation test and the settling velocity curve. So how this sedimentation test is carried out? So this sedimentation test is carried out in a laboratory by using a glass cylinder. So I will show the figure first. So you have to prepare a liquid like this. So here you have to take one solid material and liquid. You have to take this material into one jar, or in a one, we can say, cylinder, and then you have to first mix this material, and then you have to observe, kept this material as it is, and then we have to observe the different zones which is obtained after some time in this cylinder, and then you have to calculate the settling velocity and plot the curve. That I will discuss later. So first you have to prepare the slurry, that means you have to add the solid material in the liquid and you have to kept as it is. So as soon as the process of settling is started, the various zones are obtained. So these zones are shown in this figure B. So this is first figure. Okay, so this figure shows newly prepared material, and after the some time is over, then this slurry is start to settle, and there are 4 zones of this slurry is obtained. So what are these 4 zones? So first zone, that is known as the D zone. So this is the D zone, which is a heavier, faster settling particles zone. That means the particles which is having higher settling velocity is settled at the bottom first. So this is called a zone D. Above that zone D, there is another layer which is called a zone C. So zone C is nothing but it is a non-uniform concentration. Okay, so this concentration is non-uniform concentration, or variable, it is also called a variable size distribution zone. Then above zone C, so this is the C zone, there is zone B. So this is zone B. So this zone B is having uniform concentration of that solid material here, and above zone B there is zone A. So this is the zone A, so which is also a called as a zone of clear liquid. So when we kept this cylinder as it is, after mixing, there are 4 zones are obtained immediately after keeping this cylinder as it is. So first zone D is called heavier, faster settling particle zone. Then zone C is called non-uniform concentration zone. Zone B is called uniform concentration zone of solid, and zone A is called clear liquid. And again, after some time is over, then this zone size is sometimes in some cases increase, in some cases it will decrease, or we can say the vary. So after some time we will obtain this type of a zone. That means D zone is slightly increased, C zone is become small, and A zone is also become large, B zone becomes small, and again further settling is taking place. This B and C zone get disappeared, and we get only A and D zone. And again, if we kept this slurry as it is, all the particles which is present in this zone D is again get compressed, and it will move down, and this zone D gets shrink, or you can say its size will decrease, and size of zone A is increased at the end of the experiment. So all this settling process we can see in a laboratory by preparing a solid material or dissolving the solid material in a liquid, and observe these 4 zones, and then we can draw the conclusion and graph that I will discuss in the next lecture. So today's lecture we have discussed what is the difference between sedimentation and filtration, the difference between sedimentation and centrifugation, and last one sedimentation and classification. And at the end of today's lecture I had discussed how to carry out the laboratory batch sedimentation test in a lab, and what are the different zones obtained when we keep this cylinder as it is. So all this process is nothing but is a gravity settling process, and this process is used for design of the equipments of the sedimentation. Thank you. Remaining part we will discuss in the next lecture.